Tired of feeling tired? Done with diet culture? Overwhelmed by conflicting nutrition and fitness messages? Then join us, your hosts of the Nutrition Revolution podcast, as we take a deep dive into all things women's fitness and nutrition. I'm Kimberly.
And I'm Tabitha. And together we are debunking diet culture myths and giving you the tools you need to finally see the results you're looking for. All right, we recently were asked, how do we recover from diet culture, or specifically, how do we help support our hormones during recovery from diet culture? And I feel like if you were born before the year 2000, this applies to you.
Yeah.
If you are like an active woman that regularly exercises and has been kind of raised under that ethos of like, take up as little space as possible and skinny over everything and eat as little as possible, you probably struggle with low energy availability a little bit and unhealthy ideas or views on food and nutrition.
Yeah.
Less than healthy, I guess. Unhealthy, that's kind of a strong stance. I don't want to...
I mean, but it's not wrong.
Yeah.
You know, it is a strong stance, but as a woman, I think we're allowed to say that because it's not wrong.
So what would you do with a client that's coming to you that feels like they've got something wrong with their hormones, or, you know, very entrenched in like diet culture where they're just like carb phobic, food phobic, right? Yeah.
And I work a lot. I think, I don't know if it's because I've also been that person that I tend to draw that person. You know, I think you attract people that are like you or who have been like you. And so I'm very open about my past and my disordered eating and trying different things. And, you know, so I do have a lot of clients who come to me who eating 1,200 calories a day, or they are afraid to eat anything that might even have a gram of carb in it because that's just what they've been told not to do. So with my clients, the first thing we do is try to build that food positivity of, you know, because I felt like that too, right? Like food is the enemy. I can sniff a cookie and gain 20 pounds. Like I don't even have to eat the cookie. I just have to look at the cookie. And that's kind of how I felt all growing up is, and like, that you also shouldn't even want the cookie, right? Right.
That
like, shameful.
Yes. That like something clearly is wrong with you if you're sitting over here desiring a cinnamon bun or a cookie.
For sure. Yeah. I mean,
actually, I think something's wrong with you if you don't.
You should want cookies.
Right? Can we be honest?
Or like a brownie. Okay. So I think that, you know, the first thing to do is food freedom. You should know that you can eat pretty much anything within the range of, you know, as long as you have protein and carbs and fats and fiber that you can really kind of eat anything to fit your lifestyle, right? If I'm a busy mom who has kids who have crazy sports schedules, we're probably going to have to figure out how to fit in some fast food here and there. And so I have clients who will come to me and they don't want to eat anything. They're afraid to increase their calories. Most recently, I had someone come and they were eating between 1,200 and 1,400 calories, and I increased them to 1,800 to 1,900 calories. And it was an emotional moment. A lot of crying, a lot of fear, a lot of like, I can't do this because I'm going to gain weight. And so a lot of those conversations surround that increase is, let's take it slow. If we go from 1,400 to 1,500 and you don't gain weight, then we're going to keep going. We're going to add a little bit more. So it's kind of like a slow, we're moving into this. And then there's the, you know, just being honest and saying like, there are carbs that you can have that are fine. If you're afraid of gaining weight, let's kind of have less processed foods and more whole foods, and that will help. So it's really kind of building a foundation of helping the client realize that there are foods that help your body, foods that harm your body, but also food is not always the issue when it comes to weight gain. There's timing, there's calories, there's a ton of things that go into it. There's not moving, there's a ton of different avenues why we have these people who are gaining weight, and that it's not just food that's the enemy. So does that make sense?
Yes, no, 100%, because food is not the enemy at all.
Yeah. And I grew up fearing any food.
Yeah, it's your greatest ally in health, actually.
Right. But I was so afraid to even eat anything that I was just not, Red Bull and an apple. And I'm like, yeah, no, I'm totally fine. This is normal.
I'm shaking and I have a headache and I might pass out, but
right.
I'm great.
I don't know
This is
why I want to
wonderful.
nap all the time. So there's just kind of that education. I like to do very much nutrition education with all of my clients. I'm not going to ever just give you a plan and say, you have to follow this to a T. Don't deviate. This is what you have to do. I am hey, what are you eating now? Let's build on that. Here's where you could just increase. How about you get another 4 ounces of chicken with that meal? Or how about you add some steak to this meal, and look at how we can increase over time to build them up to whatever. If you're coming to me and you're eating 30 grams of protein a day, I'm not going to be like, all right, you need to have 150 grams of protein a day. We have to build up to that. And so it's that same conversation of like, if you are afraid of food, afraid to eat, you're still believing these lies about being skinny is the healthiest thing that can possibly be.
But that's all that matters. Yeah.
Yeah. And you
Skinny
can
over
only
everything.
have X amount of calories or else you're going to gain weight. Then we need to start working ourselves up to like a healthy calorie count, a healthy macro count that works for your body, your lifestyle,
your energy needs to,
right.
your activity levels.
Yeah. And so for me, I, was eating nothing all the time. And then when I started adding in food, I was terrified. But what I noticed is I had the energy to function throughout the day. I was sleeping better at nighttime. I was able to do things, work out without getting injured and really repairing my gut health and fixing my autoimmune issues because I was actually fueling my body, right? So I was actually eating food and my body was like, no, this is working. And that's when I had that eye opener of food is healing me. Because I'm eating, I can actually function now. And that was just such a big eye opener. And when people have it and experience it, it's life changing.
It is so very much life changing. Yeah. And then you're like, why did I do this for so many years?
Why did I believe all the lies?
It's a lot of hard work. You have to get very uncomfortable. Yeah. You've got to break down misconceptions and myths, and you have to be willing to do the hard and uncomfortable things and trust the process. And I have likewise dealt with experienced clients that come to me and they want help with their nutrition. And I always start with doing like a big dietary review. So I like them to provide me with several days worth of data, saying like, what are you eating? So I can get a general idea. And I tell them, I'm like, all the BLTs, all your bites, licks, and tastes, everything, put it on there. Purely, this is for informational purposes. I need to see what a normal day looks like of eating for you. What are your activity levels? And then talk to me about your menstrual health. If you are still in your reproductive years. Now, if you are on hormonal contraceptives, that's going to mask any like underlying issues. So that's kind of going to take that out of the equation. If you're not, and you have really super irregular periods, really painful, long, outside the realm of normal, you definitely need to be referred to the appropriate healthcare provider to look at that, because that's outside my wheelhouse. But if I'm looking and I'm seeing that you are chronically under eating, under fueling, that you're trying to live on that like 1,200 calories a day, but you also exercise several days a week, which means that if you take out your exercise calories, you could be living on like 700-800 calories, depending on what your
a lot of people
move goal is. And then, how long have you been doing this? And then what are your symptoms? Have you plateaued? Do you not have any energy? Do you feel snacky all the time and your cravings are out of control? And then we'll address like, there is an imbalance here of energy availability. So calories in, nutrition, nutrients that you need. And the key to hormone balance from a nutritional standpoint, barring that there's something else going on, which I would like to add that like most people aren't walking around with crazy out of whack hormones. I think that it's more realistic that people are walking around with unhealthy lifestyles that don't support, like, what is your sleep like? Are you eating enough food to support a full-grown human body and your activity levels? Or are you constantly trying to eat as little as possible? Then there's going to be some dysfunction going on.
Do you think that kind of lends into the difference between a hormone imbalance and hormone
like dysfunction?
Yeah. I think that you can have a hormone imbalance, right, where things are just kind of off, but I think those are pretty easily identified as lifestyle choices.
Right. Especially if you do your due diligence
Right.
and you're looking and seeing like, okay, wow, this person is eating such little,
Right.
so few calories, such little amount of food, not near enough protein, exercising regularly. Like, let's start with getting you eating an appropriate amount of food. Let's start with working on some sleep, getting you better quality sleep, because that's
Getting
the driver
into
of the
nature,
bus.
getting outside.
Reducing some of the stress, and then see how your body responds. And then also, it might not be a bad idea if you really do feel like, intuitively you are the expert of your body. If you really feel like something is off, then absolutely, I can refer you out to some really great doctors and qualified healthcare professionals that can help you figure out the hormone piece. But if you can go to them and you can get put on hormone therapy or whatever, but if you're still chronically underfueling, if you are still thinking that food has to be earned all the time and that more exercise is better, more, higher intensity, like, you're not going to heal yourself. It really starts with putting enough gas in the tank.
Yeah, and
starts
I
in the kitchen.
experienced that. So when I wasn't eating enough, I was cold all the time. My hair was falling out. My joints ached. I was craving sugar like a mad woman. And I was, at that time, I did caffeine. I would drink Diet Coke, Red Bull. I didn't so much do coffee, but I would, caffeine like crazy. I was also drinking at the time. Yeah, I mean, I was in college.
Yeah,
so,
okay.
I was drinking. I was, anything to like keep my body awake. But I was also in school trying to pass tests and like function, and I couldn't function. Like, I was exhausted. I would take these naps and nobody could wake me up. Like, I was just so tired. And so that chronic underfueling and the constant diet culture of flip-flopping from, all right, I'm going to do Hollywood fast, where it's like this drink and I can only drink this drink for 72 hours or 48 hours. That messed with my body. My hormones were out of whack. I would then
Losing
do
bone density
slim
too.
fast
Yeah.
and metafast and you name it. I tried it all. And the diet culture, I think, for me, looking back now, I think that's what started my autoimmune issues.
Was literally just going to say bullseye.
From the age of 13 to 21, I was in yo-yo diets.
Oh, my
all the
heart
time.
breaks for younger
Disordered
Kimberly.
eating. I know, all the time. And so, no food equals skinny, equals healthy, equals desirable.
What we should strive for,
right?
Always. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And
Skinny
so
over
it wasn't
everything.
until I started having panic attacks and anxiety disorder and going on medications and then having digestive issues, which now I'm like fiber, that I realized like there's something, I need to do. And so that's when we started down the food path. But once I started eating properly, my hair, is fine. My
You have
skin
gorgeous hair,
is
by the way,
better.
our listeners.
Thank you.
She has very luscious, dark, long locks. You do have great hair.
My skin is better. I sleep better. Like, all of these things changed. And so a lot of the things that I think maybe early on I chalked up to autoimmune disorder were also just like my endocrine system was destroyed. My hormones weren't functioning because I
So-
wasn't fueling them.
This is an interesting perspective. Genetics load the gun. Diet and lifestyle pull the trigger.
100%.
100%.
Every time.
So, I mean, autoimmune disease, like, I'll just use the one that everybody knows, like type 1 diabetes. Like, if you are, have that autoimmune disease, there's nothing you can do to prevent that. Right. But you can manage it, and your quality of life will be determined by your diet and lifestyle.
Well, once I started, so my autoimmune disease is triggered by viruses.
Okay.
So previously, viruses or pregnancy. So when I got pregnant with Jackson, that was my first experience with having like inflamed joints, and nothing fixed it at all. They put me on everything, prednisone. I was on all sorts of stuff, and they just couldn't figure it out. As I learned more about it and as I started fueling my body better, I noticed that I wasn't having the flare-ups quite as often. Now, I will still get them occasionally, but not like I was before. I genuinely believe that if I hadn't changed my lifestyle and hadn't changed my nutrition, that I would probably have swollen joints, wouldn't function, would be exhausted, would be pretty much just not able to do anything.
A shell of a human.
Yeah, because it was so bad. Even like during the flare-ups, I wasn't able to function. And so I think that I would be a completely different person if I was still depriving myself of nutrients, if I was still eating 1,200 calories versus now I try to get in 1,800 to 1,900 calories.
Girl, I'm like 2,300.
It depends on what I'm doing. If I was training for a marathon, I would be there too.
I'm an eater. No, that's like a normal. Like my basal metabolic rate is just under 2,000.
Yeah.
I'm an eating machine.
So I just feel like lifestyle, some of the studies show that like 80% of women are walking around with hormone imbalance.
Also, to that point, the majority of those women, the overwhelming majority of women, especially women that are active, so you're like regularly exercising, are at a very high risk of low energy availability, which what is the first thing that our brain does when we are in long-term low energy availability? Down regulates our endocrine system and starts shutting down reproduction. So your menstrual cycle, and that's when you start seeing those disturbances, and that's hormone imbalance. That's what that is.
Oh my gosh, I had the worst cramps. My cycle, I couldn't even track it. It was just all over the place. And birth control was what was prescribed to me. Got off of birth control because it was causing other issues. Like, I mean, I was a mess. And all of it went away with diet and lifestyle. So that's why, that's one of the reasons I'm super passionate about it.
Managed it well,
Also, now I can see when I have these clients coming to me and they're like, here's all the stuff that I'm dealing with. I'm like, I get it. I've been there. I know how you feel. And I promise you, if you would start increasing your protein, increasing your calorie intake, fueling your body, getting out in nature, even just finding community, like that has a lot to do with it too. There's so many things that can change for you. And once they start realizing it, they're like, oh my gosh, like I'm a completely different person now.
Agreed.
And it's amazing to see, but it's also so sad that like when people go to doctors to get their, physical, or they have an ailment or something is wrong, doctors aren't telling them these things.
They're not even asking them, hey, what are your eating habits like? What is it?
When was the last time you took your food journal to a doctor?
Exactly. Or they even asked you, hey, what does a usual day of eating look like for you? A normal day? Like,
no, it's always just don't eat fast food. Don't eat red meat.
Don't eat carbs.
Like, that's the worst advice ever. So it's so frustrating.
Well, don't limit your fast food. I don't think that's bad advice, right? And there is,
but it's not the only
link. Yes, there's so much more to that. And why are we not first looking at food and lifestyle choices as far as like, are you having regular exercise and movement? Like, why are we not starting there and then trying the medications and things? And obviously, okay, there's time and a place. Absolutely. Like if you're hypertensive, you need to get that under control
Modern
immediately,
medicine
right?
Is amazing.
So, yes. So while you are taking medicine to help with your blood pressure, also start working on improved whole foods diet and movement, right? And then see that you could eventually get off of these medications. And that's I'm not a doctor. I'm not sitting here saying like it's going to be the cure all, but
when you see people who are making those lifestyle,
it will help.
I have someone who came to me because she got diagnosed with type 2 diabetes, and she was on metformin, insulin, and Wegovy or Ozempic, one of them.
Okay.
And she started working out. She started eating and fueling with the right macro count that she needed, the right amount of calories. She's off everything now. She looks fantastic and she looks fealthy and she feels healthy.
She feels
energy like never before.
It's
and
amazing.
So lifestyle change and nutrition do make a difference. And so when you can see that, and in our field, we are constantly seeing people make those changes and seeing the drastic results of, I got off of, I'm not on any medication. Like I'm not on anything. And I was before. And so, when you see it working, you just want to like scream to everyone, like, eat some protein that's going to work.
We have the keys here. Food is medicine.
Yeah.
Truly, it is. Yeah. It can help you, or it can hurt you. And I don't like being like doom and gloom and like very extreme. I think there's got to be balance. Like I don't think it's realistic in today's world for a busy family to say that they're never going to have fast food. Right? I know Chick-fil-A has been a lifesaver for me more than once when I need to get fuel in my family. But what choices are you making
what
when you're there?
Are you having to like
you
eat the right
have
things.
to pick and choose. And if
Right.
you want a healthy, strong body, you're going to have to, sometimes you're going to have to say, I'm not going to get the number one with a Coke and a large fry. I'm going to get the salad and a water.
And an extra cup of protein.
And an extra cup of chicken nugs on the side.
Yep.
Like, you have to. And that's a hard truth. And people don't like to hear that.
Right.
They don't want to hear that they have to make changes. But you can either make the changes and feel better, or you can be forced to slow down because of poor health.
That's right.
And immobility and feeling like general crap.
Trash.
Trash,
all the time.
yes.
Yeah. People come to me all the time saying, like, I want to change my lifestyle, but I don't want to be deprived because I just know that doesn't work for me. There is a difference between depriving your body and making choices that fit your body right now. Deprivation is never being allowed to go out and eat a meal with friends ever, ever, ever. Where, like, sometimes you can go out with friends but still make the choice to get a seltzer or club soda and, a side of veggies instead of eating all of the wings, all of the fries, and the pizza and the nachos, right? And a beer. There's ways to do it that's not depriving your body. You can incorporate it. I tell everyone, I eat chocolate all the time, but I have it in ways that supports what I want to do. I get just enough that I want, and it still works with my body.
And my meals are really nutrient dense.
And and so you're not depriving your body by making a choice that fits your body right now.
And that's what I was going to say. Deprivation is actually diet culture. Right?
Yeah.
So if you want to recover from diet culture, I think the two foundational pieces would be changing your mindset around food. Instead of viewing it as the enemy, as something that has to be earned, as something that is good or bad, viewing it as your greatest ally in health. How can you harness the power of nutrition to feel great, to have energy, right? Because that is how we should be feeling every day. And then the other piece is adequate nutrition, like making sure that you are eating enough for you so that you can support the demands of your body.
Yeah, and there's that food freedom, like it all falls into when you learn how to eat for your body, you feel so free, so healthy, so full of energy, sleeping better, moving better. Your hair looks good. Your skin is good. People will stay.
Energy's great.
Like,
you're crushing it. You're like, wow, instead of feeling completely depleted and done for the whole rest of the day, I'm like strong. And
it makes me want to go do something else.
Yeah, I can like go home and like still clean my house and cook dinner and do laundry and run my kids all over God's green earth. And like, I got this.
Yeah.
Because I'm fueled.
Yeah. Yeah. And I see that a lot when people start eating healthy and moving, that they're like, oh, I used to, leave a workout and go home and go to sleep, take a nap. But now I'm like gardening. I leave here and I go home and garden, or I leave here and I go home and meal prep. And like, I just have so much energy for the day. I thought I was going to want to take a nap. And that I'm like, yes, like we're getting it. Yes. Something's changing. Your hormones are changing. You're waking up and you want to eat food.
Yes.
Like that's a huge...
Getting your appetite back. That's one thing. Like I feel like almost every woman I work with is like, I'm not hungry.
Yeah,
I'm like, that's actually not normal.
Right.
Right. Waking up
that's
and feeling
a sign
hungry.
Of hormone dysfunction.
That's a sign that something is off and that your body is like quite literally in starvation mode.
Yeah.
Where they're turning down the essential functions of like your menstrual cycle and, hormone production for the sake of like preservation of the body, right? So when you're not being fueled enough, your body is going to react in kind to preserve itself. So you're going to have increased signaling for fat storage. We're going to hold on to that stubborn fat because that's a long-term energy source for the body, and we're not getting enough nutrition and energy coming in, so we don't know when. Like maybe we're in a famine, right? Like your brain, your body doesn't realize that like you have a fully stocked pantry, fridge, and freezer. You are choosing to do this to yourself,
and that's why the consistency works too, right? It's telling your body like where we're functioning. Actually, the waking up and eating food, because I've seen so many people in the diet culture, either they really don't want to eat food, or they think they shouldn't eat food first thing in the morning.
That's best is to be fasted.
So it's actually one of the first things we celebrate with my clients when they text me and they say like, oh my gosh, I woke up so hungry. I'm like, oh my gosh, your hormones are working. Like, this is so exciting.
Your appetite's returning.
And
I
it's
agree.
true. Like,
And
that's such a huge difference.
So not only is that like one of the first victories or wins to celebrate, but that's also one of the first habits that I start with my clients is, what does breakfast look like for you? What's the timing around it? What's the quality of it, the content of it? And let's just start there and work improving on that. And it's amazing how quickly women are like, you know, I'm feeling great.
Yeah.
I feel, you know, I have more energy. Like my headaches are gone. I have better appetite control and regulation, you know, of my cravings throughout the day are decreasing.
Yeah.
There's just,
I remember being nervous to like admit that I was hungry, but I was hungry. Like, as I started healing, I remember being like, I really want to eat like all the food. And I, you know, in my head, I was like, why? I shouldn't want to eat. But when you allow your body to actually function and tell you and have those hunger cues, it's powerful.
so powerful. It's life-changing.
Yeah.
Yeah. I agree. So, I mean, if you want to recover from diet culture, you got to do the hard work to improve your mindset around nutrition. And if you're not sure how to do that, it's best to hire a coach that can help you. And then also take a deep dive and be really honest and look at, what are my eating habits like? What's my diet and lifestyle look like? And where can I improve to help support a healthy, vibrant metabolism and myself.
Yeah, I think that's good. All right, till next time.
Thanks for spending your time with us. If you found this podcast helpful, we would love for you to share it with your friends and family. And don't forget to subscribe on your podcast platform. If you have nutrition or fitness questions you want answered on future episodes, we would love to hear from you. You can submit these questions to our email, Thenutritionrevolutionpodcast@gmail.com, and follow us on Instagram @TheNutritionRevolutionPodcast.